our consciousness can go other places, and there's a network that connects the entire universe.
Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the Good in the Head podcast. Today, I have a really fun guest on the show. Uh, why don't, instead of I trying to introduce you, why don't you introduce yourself and tell people what you're all about, who you are?
Okay. I'm Gary DeSanti, and I run the Arizona Psychedelic Society, which is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, and I actually took it over last year. I've been involved with it since it started. When I first came to the society, they were meeting in a library, and it was like, 10 to 15 people were there, and it would just be a circle, and we just talk and just share stories. And at that time, it was being run by Kate, and Kate was awesome. She's still around, and but she ended up getting married to a doctor that was down in Mexico, and she had to go down there. And so she's like, "Oh, I need you guys can take it over." And at the time, Troy Madsen and Andrea Twitchell and Adam Staples, they were like the closest to her. And so they took over for her, and Troy kind of took the lead, and he tried to build it into something bigger and better. And Adam got real like hyper focused on it, and he's the one that actually put together this whole thing we've been doing at the Meraki Kava Bar, which every Monday we meet there. And he put together a speaker series there. And so he reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, I put together this thing. If you want to come, we're going to have our first speaker, and they're going to be talking about psychedelics and whatever. And I have a bunch of different people lined up." And I said, "Oh, that sounds great, man. I'll be there for sure." And so I went to that first Monday, and I was like, "Holy cow, this is like different. This is what I was looking for." And I had been kicking around the idea of starting my own kind of psychedelic society at the time, because I was like, we need to do more than this library thing. It's just not enough. And that's like, and I know there's more people out there that need to learn about these things. And so I'm thinking about that, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, do I want to have my name attached to something? It's kind of a gray area in legal sense. And um, but you know, my partner at the time, we were both really, involved, and we wanted to further this stuff in the world, and we thought it was for a good cause. And after I went to that first one at Meraki, I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is what we needed. And I was there every Monday. Like, that was about 4 years ago that he started doing that one. And
Wow.
I was at that kava bar every Monday since then. I didn't miss one until just recently. Meraki had to go through some changes. They had to move to a different location, and they kind of pivoted because these kratom laws are getting crazy. They're trying to make kratom a scheduled substance, which
I
is
didn't know
absolutely
that.
nuts.
That's wild.
Yeah, yeah, it's really wild. And
Huh.
so they actually got hit by the health department. They came in, and FDA came in and said, you can't serve kratom, you can't serve kava, you can't serve lion's mane mushrooms
What?
anymore. If you're still serving those, we're going to shut you down. They told her that, and I'm like, what? Lion's mane? What? That doesn't make sense at all.
Let's find that at
And
Sprouts.
yeah, exactly. And it's super good for you. Like, it's nuts. So she didn't know what to do. The owner, Tracy, she didn't know what to do, and so she ended up moving to a different building, that's not too far from there. But then she kind of pivoted to do like a tea house, and like, uh, tea houses are very popular in other countries. They're huge. People go and they spend a ton of money to go to these tea house experiences. But because of the nature of what we do, it's more of like a social gathering where we want to hang out and talk and be, just kind of just loose. It's not so structured. And um, it kind of clashed with what Tracy was trying to do with the new location. So
Right.
we had to pivot ourselves to find someplace else to hold our regular Mondays, but we're doing that now at a different kava bar, so it's good. Um, but that thing is just took off, and Adam did so much work to put all that initial stuff together with the speaker series. He had a different speaker lined up every Monday for 9 months,
Wow.
every Monday, and it was a different practitioner of different modality of substance or whatever it was, and really knowledgeable people, really really high quality speakers. And I was like, geez. And after I went to a few, and I just got so inspired, I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to record these. And I started bringing my phone and recording the talks. And then, some of them, there's a certain amount of anonymity people want, because of the nature of everything. And so I didn't make any of them public. They're all private. I have them on my YouTube channel. They're private videos, so nobody can see them but me. Or if they want to, I send them to the speaker. I said, if you want to share this, you can share it, but I'm going to keep it private. So to keep protect you from whatever. Um, and then the way the conference last year came about was we have a member who was formerly running the Dallas Psychedelics Society, and she said she would fly out this guy from Dallas that is the head of the um, religious studies at SMU, and he wrote a book about the Santo Daime called The Liquid Light. And I was like, oh, that sounds kind of pretty big deal. He's a published
Yeah.
author and head of religious studies. And I was like, well, I think it's silly to have him at this small kava bar. We should have a bigger thing. And so it's kind of my brainchild to do a conference, like from the onset. And everybody's like, I don't know, it's kind of short notice and blah blah blah. And we had 5 weeks from that conversation to the
Wow.
conference. And so we just started making calls, getting people. And um, Joe Tafur was a friend of Andrea's, who she had been in ceremony with down in Brazil, I think, or Colombia. I can't remember which one, but like she had a relationship with him, and she's like, I might be able to get him. I said, that's great. He's amazing. I've read his books, and his books are awesome. Have you read either of his books?
I've got them both. I started on one
Yeah.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they're amazing. So I was like, that's awesome. Let's get him. And then all the other people were people from within our society that we knew and had talked before in Rocky, and we trusted, and we knew they were going to do a good job. And it just came together beautifully. And I mean, you saw that you were there, so
I had no
it was
idea there
it
was
was great.
anything like this out there. I was blown away when Matt at work, we work at Boeing together, and he's like, "Hey, there's this conference coming up." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. What's it about?" He started explaining it and describing who would be talking and what it was going to be about. And I was like, "Hell yeah, I'm so in, bro."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
the way y'all started it with Coulter Smith, with a
Mhm.
breathwork session.
Breath work, yeah.
Hey, we're going to do a 45-minute breathwork series. And I was like, excuse me, 45 minutes? And that flew by.
Oh
And
yeah.
everyone there had a sort of a natural high. It was like
Hmm.
a really beautiful feeling, opened our hearts and minds. And then we went into conference, heard these amazing speakers. And the guy that was introducing everybody was playing music and telling stories, and he was amazing. And dude, that whole conference was just so legit. And so I wanted to have you on the show, especially to let people know that there's another one coming up. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so this year, we've had a much longer amount of time to plan and kind of put things together. Um, our biggest thing though, right after that conference, well, actually, right, I think it was right before, but Troy had told us that, kind of made an announcement to the whole group that he was wanting to step away because his life was getting pulled in different directions, and he didn't think he could devote the time that was necessary to run the nonprofit and keep everything else going in his personal life and family life and stuff. And so I said, I volunteered basically. I'm like I'll keep the torch burning. We can keep this going. And
Oh yeah.
so, it was, we kind of decided, let's do this every year. Let's do an annual conference and let's make it a big thing and try to grow every year. But financially, we are a nonprofit. There's no money. We don't do a whole lot of things that bring money in. So, the Kava Bar thing, we don't make anything on that. We try to encourage people to donate if they can, but I don't want to ever make it to where people can't come to something because of money. You know what I mean? I feel like this is more important than the dollar. So I want to make it as free as possible. Um, but this year I want the conference to be a little bit more experiential than just sitting and listening to lectures, because that gets a little bit hard to, people get antsy. They don't want to sit there that long. And I get it. I get the same way. I'm uncomfortable. I just want to get up and move around a little bit. So, we're going to do breath work to start the day. We're going to do a bunch of different things throughout the day that people can choose. Like, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do this. Like, we'll have yoga. Uh, we'll have hape offered there, cacao ceremonies offered there, ecstatic dance. We'll end both days with the drum circle. We're going to do integration circles. We're going to do, a lot of different things where people have a chance to kind of break out from sitting in the chair and listening to a speaker, and instead going to do something. I think we're going to have ice baths and other healing modalities. I have a back walker that's going to come, and hopefully an acupuncturist will be there. We'll have so many things, so many health and wellness things available. A bunch of vendors that are doing different things in the health and wellness space. Um, and last year we did it at Mesa Arts Center, which was beautiful. I love the facility. But I'll be honest with you, it was so difficult to work with city stuff, because there's so much red tape and just so many like strict guidelines you got to follow. And we're on this tight schedule with their employees, because they got to have a lunch and they got to have a break, and they have to, and we're just like, we want to do our conference our way. Like, we don't want to have
Yeah.
all these rules. So this time we're doing it at Unity Spiritual Center, and the facility is beautiful. It's a great place. The people are so kind, and they love what we're doing. They're so excited about it too. So I love having a partner that's as excited as we are about what we're doing. Um, so that's really exciting for us. I think it's going to be a great conference this year. We just got to
So,
get the word out, to people. Marketing is our weak point, and that's if we can
yeah,
get
I
the
know.
word
I've
out.
seen so many people posting the information, but for people that are interested in these things and want to have a new experience or learn something about any of these topics, where should they go to find the information? How much are tickets, pre and at the door? I know it's a 2-day event. And what types
2 day
of
event.
things should people be bringing with them? Like you said, cold plunges. I'm into that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
so if you're gonna cold plunge, bring a swimsuit and a towel, and bring a yoga mat. You can bring a drum if you want to bring a drum to play the drum circle. Um, I think that if people understand what this is, because there's other psychedelic conferences around the country. There's one that's going to be in Austin, in I think theirs is in October too. I think it's a couple weeks before ours, but the ticket prices are just outrageous. You're looking at $1,200
Mhm.
for a 2 day event at their
Yeah.
conference, and it's like, and they have some high powered, big name speakers like Paul Stamets and Rick Doblin. But I've been to Paul Stamets' talks before. I've been to Rick Doblin's talks before, and the information that you're getting from them is the same information that they're saying online in every other post. You know what I mean? So it's like you're not really learning. You're just going there to see a name, and I get that. I do understand, but like I feel like I honestly believe our conference has like a lot to offer as far as the education part, and then the community part with the vendors and the experiences you can have there. There's just, and our ticket prices are $150. That gets you for both days. Right now it's early bird, so you can get them for $125, and it's such a value. I mean, it's such a great
It's,
value.
if it's
And
anything like last year's conference, man, I highly recommend people do it.
yeah,
We already bought our tickets like day one. We're so excited. We can't wait.
yeah, you were our first. I think you were the first people to buy tickets, so that was awesome.
I'm in.
But we yeah, I mean, just trying to get the money together, and paying for some of these speakers to fly out and put them up in a hotel and all that stuff. It costs money, and the venue's like over $10,000 to get the venue. And so we got to bring in people. We got to get, we're getting sponsorships and trying to find the money to make this thing special. And that's, and it's not about making, we don't make anything. I don't care, we're nonprofit. So I just want to cover, what we're spending. So I'm not coming out of my pocket for a bunch of stuff right now. All the flights and everything, I've paid for all the speakers so far that are coming from other states, and I've put them on my personal credit card. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping I'm getting that money back.
Yeah, me
But
too.
it's
So
so
worth
awesome.
it.
It's yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so is there a website or a Facebook group or anything where all this information is?
Yeah, so you can find the conference if you want to get tickets to the conference. You can go to 20 just put 2026 Arizona Psychedelic Conference in Google, and it'll come up. Our Zephy page will come up, um, and you can buy tickets there. You can go to our meetup page. There should be a link in our meetup to get to the conference as well. We do Facebook and Instagram, and there's links on both of those to get there as well. So our website is under development right now. I'm hoping that we're going to get it done today or tomorrow with all the conference stuff, so they can go directly to our website, which is ArizonaPsychedelicsSociety.com, and they can get tickets through that as well. So
Awesome. I'll put all this
all the way is
information down in the show notes as well.
yeah, yeah,
How exciting. You're doing
yeah.
some
It's
great
super cool,
work.
super cool. I mean, psychedelics changed my life in so many ways, and I didn't discover them till I was a little later in life. And
Same.
what I
Let's get into
learned
that.
though
Let's
is
let's get your history. Let's find out who you used to be,
okay,
what
okay.
caused you to even be interested in this realm, and then
Well,
what happened after.
I grew up an athlete, straight edge, didn't touch drugs, didn't smoke weed, nothing, didn't drink. I didn't drink till I was like late 20s.
Mhm.
Um, I just wanted to play sports all the time. That's all I cared about. And, I had a family pretty young. So I had three young boys, before I was 30. I mean, and, you know, I just focused on work. And then I'm an arborist, so climbing trees every day and doing, that kind of stuff. And I was physically active, pretty physical all the time.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it wasn't until I think it was my late 30s when I first tried a psychedelic. And the first one I tried was actually salvia, which if you're familiar with salvia, um, it's a plant that you smoke the leaves, kind of like cannabis, but it's not like cannabis at all.
Yeah,
And
what
there's a
is
lot of
that?
people.
I've never heard of it.
So Salvia divinorum, it's a very powerful psychedelic.
Hmm.
Uh, but when you smoke it, it's just you just kind of like lose your body. You lose all sense of everything. So when I smoked it, I thought it was going to be like getting high like with weed, and I was not. I didn't really like weed all that much, but I thought something different. This might be interesting. Maybe I'll like it. And so we got some. I smoke it. I'm sitting on my bed, and after I hit it, I just laid back, and it felt like I was like sucking into the center of the earth. I couldn't move. I was completely paralyzed. I felt like completely out of my body, and it was kind of terrifying. And so it only lasts like 10, 15 minutes though. It doesn't last very long.
Okay. Huh.
So there was that, blessing. I came back from that. I was like, well, I'm not touching that again. That was not fun. And, I was not interested in trying that again anytime soon. And,
What made you
I've
interested in
tried.
the first place in doing that?
So my girlfriend smoked weed. She liked to smoke weed, and I didn't. And I thought, well, if I find something maybe I like it, it's better to do something together, like that. And I mean, I'm not. I was never like against any of that. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember my aunts and uncles all smoked weed. It was common. Wasn't that big of a deal. I just never liked it. I tried it, and it didn't do it for me. Like little giggles here and there, and mostly though, I woke up the next day with like a hangover, like a feeling of a hangover, and my eyes would be all dry and my mouth's all dry, and I just didn't enjoy it. So I kind of steered, away from it. But then I heard about this salvia stuff, and I said, "Oh, this could be interesting. Try something different, see if it works for me." And it didn't. So I was like, I'm out. I'm out on that." um, and then I'm getting a call. I got to get up, turn that off. Um, there we go. So it wasn't until years later that um, I read. So I'm a singer. I've been in a bunch of bands like throughout the years, and I joined a Tool tribute band,
Oh
which I never
yeah.
thought I would. I never thought I would do that, and I responded to a Facebook post. This guy was like, "Oh, we're looking for a singer for a Tool tribute band." And I was like, I can sing." All I said was, "I can sing that stuff, but I don't look anything like Maynard. So I wish you luck. I hope you find somebody, man." And I got a private message from him like right away. He's like, "Well, if you don't like him, come on out. Let's give it a go." And I was like, ah, okay, I went and auditioned, and I was really auditioning them because I'm like, if they can't play this shit, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna put my name on it, from the first song, like it was just like chemistry was crazy, and it sounded so good. We all looked at each other like, oh shit, I think we have something here, and so I mean, I've been doing that for 14 years now with those guys, and I never owned a Tool album. I listened to Tool on the radio. I remember their videos from MTV days. I liked the band. It was like a band I did like, and but I didn't know, any of the songs. I had to learn them all. So I went and bought all their albums, and just went through the whole discography trying to, learn the music. And then Maynard put out a biography, and so I read his biography. And in the biography, he said that psychedelics for him is something that you can just do one time, and then you have material to write from that experience for 10 years. And I was like, what? I'm
Interesting.
like, what are you
Creativity
talking?
unlocked, huh?
What does that mean? I'm like, because I was writing albums at the time. I was writing music for original projects, and I was like, that sounds pretty good, and his fucking stuff is dope. So maybe I need to look into this a little bit. But I'm a very science minded person, so I just started reading books, started learning as much as I could, and devouring information about psychedelics. And the more I read about the history and everything else involved, I was like, how did this pass me by? It just never even caught my attention at all. And clearly, we've been lied to about so many things. All of the stuff the government tells you is crap, and they're hiding medicine that actually helps people a lot from the public. It's nuts. I was like, this is crazy. So I still was on the fence though, because like there's still all that Dare Project stuff in my head. There's still all these, oh, people take acid and jump a building and think they could fly, and there's all these stories that you heard, propaganda, and I decided I'm gonna try mushrooms because that seemed like it's natural. It just grows. You just eat the mushroom. That's all you have to do. There's no processing involved. Seemed like the safest. The LD50 on mushrooms isn't even known. It's so safe. It's like at the bottom of every scale of what drugs are dangerous, and so I was like, I don't know how to get mushrooms though. I have no concept. I don't know anybody in this space. I'm a complete newbie. I don't know what to do. So I came home one day, and I heard Paul Stamets tell his story on like a podcast somewhere, and it was so like, whoa, like curious stuttering in one time taking these mushrooms, and we're talking about it, and my phone rings, and it was a buddy that I used to work at the YMCA with that moved to Mississippi, and so he calls me up, and I'm like, hey, what's going on, man? He says, hey, and I'm literally talking with my partner about mushrooms, right? And he says, I got a question for you. I said, what's that? He said, do you like mushrooms? What the fuck? Like, are you in my house? Like, what's going on right now? Like, I'm like, we were just talking about mushrooms. How did you know that? And he's like, no, I didn't know. What do you mean? And I was like, psychedelic mushrooms. We're talking about how do we get them, and to try them. And he starts laughing. He's like, oh, I was just talking about oyster mushrooms because I think you could grow oyster mushrooms out there in Arizona and make a lot of money because they're turning into a hot commodity. And I'm like, oh. He's like, but I used to grow the psychedelic kind. I still have some I could send you if you want. And I'm like, what?
That's
It was just
wild.
it was like the universe just like
Oh yeah.
trying to, you know what I mean? Like
How do
I was
you
like,
not believe in synchronicity and divine
right?
timing at
It
that
was
point, you know?
it was the craziest thing. And so I'm like, yeah, dude, send them. I'll pay for the shipping. I mean, whatever, man. And so he shipped me out this package. It was like Ziploc, zip sealed, vacuum sealed bag of mushrooms. And so I got a scale, I got a gem scale, and I'm trying, titrating my doses up to see what this does, and I was pretty disappointed the first few weeks because I wasn't getting much. I was like, I don't really understand. Like the lights look a little brighter, but that's all I'm really getting. A little bit of a body high. That's all
Yeah.
I'm feeling, and but I kept upping the dose, upping the dose, upping the dose, and then I had a buddy come out and visit me from Leeds in the UK, and he stayed with me for like 3 weeks because he was on vacation. And one night I was like, "Hey, you want to try some mushrooms?" And he's like, "Sure." So That was the first time though that I didn't measure. I just grabbed some and fucking ate them and handed him some and he ate them, and that was the first real trip I had, and it was amazing because there was like a storm. There was like a monsoon storm that night, and there were these clouds that were just all dark and moving around, and we're sitting in the backyard and we're just both going like this. just completely in awe, and we're looking at our hands like whoa, like it was it was just such a it was a funny trip. We were laughing the whole night, and um so the next day, up until that point, my partner at the time, she didn't really want to try the mushroom. She wasn't sure, and
That's scary. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I told her about the trip. I'm like, it was amazing. You really got to try it. You got to at least try it. And so she finally said, okay, I'll try it, and I gave her, I think I gave her like 1.5 grams or something like that. And she did not have a good time at all. She was not, not feeling good. She was feeling nauseous and didn't really get anything out of it. And she's like, I don't know if I ever want to do that again. I didn't really enjoy it. And I was like, yeah, I just think you should try it one more time, just to, because it's like, I don't know, maybe you didn't get enough. Maybe you need to take a little bit more to get to where you need to get. I don't know, but and she finally did a couple. It was probably a month or so later, and she had an amazing trip that night. And it was like, oh, now I see.
Huh.
Once you see, you see, and it's like
Yeah.
after that we were both in all the way in on it, and but it's one of those things where not only are they not legal, but we don't know anybody that does this stuff, so we had no one to talk to, and it was like, I feel like so caged, and I'm looking online trying to find different places where you could talk. I found DMT World, so I started an account with them, and I started doing the chat rooms and stuff and talking to people there. I was like, gosh, I just want to talk to somebody in person, and like have a conversation with someone. It's so much more natural and like fulfilling than being online typing away, and that's how we ended up coming to the first psychedelic thing at the library. But
Wow. That's cool. What a
it's
story, man.
it's been an interesting journey, and I kept taking more. I kept trying to more and more because every time was better than the last.
Mhm.
You know, and I got to the point where I was taking pretty high doses, and um, when I tell people how much I took, they're like, "What? What are you talking about? That's crazy." And I'm like, "But it wasn't like for me. I worked my way there. It wasn't like I'm jumping in with both feet. I was like, dip a toe, dip a foot. Like, and I got to a point, and I was taking 20 plus grams of mushrooms, and
Yeah, dang, in one sitting.
yeah,
Wow.
and then I had to learn to grow them. I was learning to grow the mushrooms because my buddy only gave me a small package of them, and I didn't trust anyone. I didn't know where to get them, so I just like I got to learn how to grow it myself. So I started reading books and figuring out like how you do it, and the cultivating is really a fun hobby. I enjoy it a lot, and I haven't been growing as much lately. I don't grow too often, just because of time. But I really enjoy doing it. It's like a little bit of catharsis in doing it, and then you kind of have a relationship with the mushroom that you grew. When you take it, it's different. Like at least for me.
What what
But
kind of information or downloads or experiences did you find most useful during your trips, I guess?
so for me, like one of the things that came out, like I've always been like a pretty rational person, pretty well put together. I thought, mentally stable and all that. I didn't have any kind of issues that I recognized in myself. Um, but the mushrooms will tell you things about yourself or just highlight it so that you can see it. And one of the things that came out was I had PTSD pretty severely. Um, in what year was it? 2000. It was either 2000 or 2001, maybe. We got involved in a freeway shooting. Um, I DJ'd my one of my friends' weddings, and after the wedding, we picked up our three boys from my mom's house, and we were heading home on I-17. We were going south on I-17, getting on the stack to go. east on I-10.
Mhm.
And right before that off ramp, this car behind us just unloaded at a full clip in my van, and it all happened so fast. Like I was at like cruise control at 60 miles an hour. The car that shot at us, their headlights were off. I heard the first gunshot. It was like this pow, and then there was a hole in my windshield right in front of me. I was like, what? And then another pow, no hole, another pow, another hole right here. And I'm like, what the, I didn't feel anything, but like there's sparks flying all over the van, and I see in my rear view mirror on the side mirror, I see the gun flashes from the muzzle. He's got his hand out the driver's side window, just pop, 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 pop. And and so I, start swerving and go up the ramp, and he went west, I went east. But I felt something hit the back of my head, and I thought, if I don't make this turn, they're all gonna die. That was all I thought. And I got to make this turn, and I got to get around this corner, keep the kids safe, and I get around the corner. I see them disappear. I watched them all the way till they turned their headlights on I-10 westbound, and so we're going east. It wasn't until about the tunnel where I felt like something on my elbow, and I reached over, and then I had blood on my hand. And I was like, "What the?" And so I got shot in the back of the right arm, and then a piece of shrapnel from the van, because one of the bullets went through the window, or like the little edge of the window in the back, and it hit me. The piece of shrapnel hit me in the head. So I got home, and I felt like there's this lump in my arm, and I told my girlfriend, I said, get the tweezers and pull this. There's something in there. Pull it out. She's, I'm not doing that. And so we went to the hospital, and they pulled the bullet out, and it was a full bullet. I was like, oh shit, I didn't think of that. That was in there. That's crazy.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
they pulled the metal out of my head, and they I talked to the news station, the police, had detectives said they were going to come and take the fragments out of the van or whatever, and they never came. The detectives never came. There was a news story about it, but then when they interviewed me, I was like, I'm not trying to like provoke these insane people that shot at us to come and try again. You know what I mean? I don't know why
Yeah.
they did it. There was no provocation in the incident at all. They were just doing some crazy shit for some gang thing or something. That's what. And so I'm like I just wish people would think about like who's in that car. There were three kids sleeping in the back. Luckily they were laying down sleeping. Otherwise, who knows? And luckily I was the only one that got hit. But and then and 2 weeks later, somebody died exactly the same way, opposite direction on I-17, right at that same area. So they were still doing it, and then I don't. As far as I know, they never caught anybody. They never punished anybody for this, and they said it was probably a random gang initiation thing or something. And but for me, I was really angry about it. Obviously, try to kill me and my kids for no reason, like that's crazy. But I never really dealt with it. I never really processed it fully. I just kind of went on. I just kind of carried on, like you
Yeah.
do.
What else
And
is there to do? How do you even process
right,
that? That's wild.
right. So, but it affected me, and it affected my relationship at the time. And, I just kind of turned into a different person for a while. And that's what ended up, you know, ending that relationship that I was in, because she just got fed up with me and the way I was. And I didn't know, I couldn't see it you can't see it from the inside, it's
Yeah.
just, and so when the mushrooms, like, look at this, dude. You never dealt with this. Like, what, this still affects you to this day. And I was like, oh man, it is. It's true. That's crazy. Like, I didn't realize, and now I have a much more uh, empathetic view of people that go through trauma, that go through, everything from, a firefighter, police officer, any kind of first responder, ambulance, technicians, all those people, they all have trauma because the things they see that stays with you.
It does.
And veterans get the highlight right now. Veterans are the ones that get most of the psychedelic stuff that's trying to help veterans, right? Well, there's so many more people though. Nurses and doctors, EMTs, all of these people, they go through all that trauma, and nobody addresses it. No, they don't get extra care for the stuff they see that they go through. They need to process some way so they can heal from that, so it doesn't affect them in other aspects of their life. And that's what we need psychedelics for. And I don't think it should just be for people who who clearly have trauma, because I didn't know, you know, that that affected me so much. I didn't know. And had I not taken psychedelics, maybe I never would have known. I just went through my whole life without knowing, you know.
Yep. Yep.
But these aren't just medicines for sick people or mentally unwell people. These are medicines for everybody. They can help anybody. I don't care what your situation is. You know, obviously there's some people that should not take these medicines because of pre-existing conditions that it could adversely affect. But if you're, you know, if you don't have any of those to speak of, I really believe these things can help anybody in the right way if you take them in the right way with the right intention.
I
And
agree.
that's why I do what I do with this society.
Man, that's beautiful. That's how did that help you actually process through that trauma? What did it expose to you about yourself that you didn't decided to alter or improve that ended up resulting in a more beautiful life or way of living?
I think by the time I had taken psychedelics, I had changed a lot of those negative behaviors just through kind of like a trial and error type of thing. You know what I mean? But when I was able to see it highlighted and understand like where those emotions came from, um, it just kind of allowed me to, I guess, grieve is the best word. It just allowed me to grieve what I had gone through and see it from a perspective that, you know, those people that did that clearly were not aware of what they were doing. I think a lot of people do things that are horrible, but they're not even aware of what they're doing and how bad and devastating it is for not only the people that it's affecting, but even themselves. So it kind of allowed me to forgive those people, feel sorry for them, and hope that they got help. Hope that they figured out life so that they're not doing that kind of a thing anymore, you know. Um,
That sounds
and
very useful.
I just let it go. I was able to just completely let it go, which I wish I could have done that years before without, you know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, hindsight's 2020. I'm sure everybody would love to know what they know now and go back and try it again, you know.
Right,
Let's see what
right.
else we could do differently this time, you know. That's fantastic, man. Oh, 20 grams, you said?
Oh, well, I mean, I've taken more than that. You know, I don't like to brag, and I'm not trying to like tell people do this because I don't think anyone should, to be honest. Because I was experimenting with different doses, um, and then I experimented with MAOIs, if you're familiar with that, monoamine oxidase inhibitors, which is what they take with DMT. It's part of the actual DMT ayahuasca vine.
Uh-huh.
That vine actually contains MAOI. It doesn't
Okay.
have the DMT. So it's
Yeah,
called the
yeah.
vine of the souls, right? And that vine contains MAOI. And I was reading about it in this book, and I was like, that's interesting. I wonder what an MAOI does with mushrooms if it has an effect at all. You know, so I learned
Did
all this
it?
chemistry stuff, and well, that's the thing is I think it did, and the reason I think it did is because I took a really high dose. With an MAOI. I took the MAOI like 30 minutes before, and then I took 25 grams of mushrooms, lemon teched. So I should just soak them in lemon juice so that they break down a little bit and they can hit your system a little faster.
Hmm.
And I assumed, you know, I went in with the assumption that maybe this MAOI is going to make the trip last a little longer. Maybe it'll make it be more intense. I don't know, but we're going to find out, you know. And I did read some good reports of the mix on Reddit and other places where people talked about using an MAOI and it really did things for them in their trip. And I was like, I want to see what that's like, you know. And up to that point, I had taken, you know, 21 grams, 22 grams, or yeah, at different levels just to see what it did, and it was intense. It's a very it's not a game, right? It's a very
Mm-mm.
intense experience, and it's not like necessarily fun. Oftentimes, it's a little scary and can be, you know, difficult, you know, to get through. Um, and when I did the first time with that dose and an MAOI, I was actually camping, and I thought that would be a good setting in the woods to have this kind of experience. Unfortunately, I was completely wrong about that. And I didn't know until I was already in it and it was too late. And so I just sat there with regret and fear most of that trip. And, I was completely out of my body. I was gone. But like at the same time, other than the fears and like, thinking things like, oh, there's bears out here. What would I do? I couldn't do anything if there was a bear. They're just going to eat me. I'm done. I
Uh,
can't even move. And all these things are going through my head. What if it snows? It was May. It's not going to snow, but your brain, you're not in your right mind, right? You're not. So you can't judge how safe something is when you're tripping because you're not you anymore, right? You're in a different headspace completely. Um, and so after that experience, I came back home and I wanted to replicate that experience, but in a safe environment and where I could control my setting completely. And so I did that. I did the same dose, and that was one of the most unbelievable, like mind blowing experiences of my life. Right. And everything from astral projection to my consciousness traveling to another world and inhabiting this creature there for just a few seconds, but it was so amazing. Like it was real without question. It was a real thing happening, but like nobody believes me because it's like
oh,
it's out there. It's out there.
I'll tell you what, I do. I do. I've experienced many similar things over the years. I've dove deep into podcasts about um, the Army and CIA project for remote viewing,
Oh
read
yeah,
books about it,
me
hundreds of
too.
near-death experiences, tons of books. And the experiences that people have, they say it's more real than this human experience.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
like all we are is the energy that inhabits and animates this human body for
Right.
a very brief moment in time, for a human experience. But what about when we're not in our bodies? What is a dream state really? Is it an alternate reality possibly? I don't know. But
Right.
I did try one time the astral projection. And Tom Campbell is a physicist. He's written a trilogy of these very thick, educated, intellectual books called My Big Toe, Theory of Everything, right?
Okay.
And
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Bob Monroe and he and a couple other guys actually created that project for astral travel, which the Army and the CIA then took over and that got buried and disappeared from the public eye for decades until these podcasts recently. So um,
Interesting.
there's something on YouTube called the Gateway Project. There's like 53 guided meditations, they're recordings. And when you go through these, most of the comments were when I got to number 10, dude, holy crap. I did number one and I haven't done it since. It freaked me out. And it
Really?
was incredible. And I was like, this is a thing for sure. No doubt in my mind.
Have to give that a go.
Dude, it's a natural way of literally leaving the body. They hemisync the two hemispheres of the brain by putting noises in that are just like four decibels
Frequencies.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah, like binaural beats, right?
Right. I've done that a lot. Yeah.
And that, especially with plant medicine, binaural beats can be magical.
Hmm.
It's such a great experience. But
Absolutely.
yeah, definitely something to enjoy and learn a lot from. You know, these medicines, I went in the first time microdosing because I was a little scared. I've never done anything like this before. I grew up in the age of Nancy Reagan, like, oh, this is your
Yeah.
brain on drugs. You're gonna die. And
Absolutely.
so I was done thinking about that as a possibility for me in my life ever. And in my 40s, I got very curious because I saw some people through ayahuasca came back from this week-long retreat and they were different. They had changed. They'd seen some things and learned some things. One of them brought back the um, hape, and I started utilizing that along with breath work and meditation every day, especially during the shutdowns. We had more time.
Yeah.
And wow, to great effect for sure. And it was weird because I didn't know what to do. And seen Paul Stamets on Joe Rogan, like you probably did, and telling about stories of 14-year-old hanging onto the tree in a storm and
Yeah.
realizing that,
Axis Mundi. Yeah.
yeah, it was incredible. So I got curious and I started listening to a lot of Ram Dass podcasts on the Be Here Now network talking about psilocybin and LSD. And so I was curious, I got my hands on some. I bought these little caps from Amazon, the 00 size capsules, and
Yep.
ground it up in a coffee maker, threw it in those, and I'd take two a day. And on day four, I was like you, the first couple of weeks you're a little like, I'm just feeling a little weird and see the colors differently. But I got an intuitive nudge to spend the day alone in the bedroom with a pillow over my eyes, so it was complete blackness, and put on the binaural beats. And wow, life
Wow.
altering experience for sure. And all I
Absolutely.
did for an intention, I went in there and said, hey, show me what I need to see, not necessarily what I want, but show me what I need. And it did kick my ass. And I was like,
Yep.
I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. It can be rough sometimes. And sometimes there's things you don't want to see, but you got to.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I just came back with this sense like that our consciousness can go other places, and there's a network that connects the entire universe.
Yes.
And when I went to that other world, it was like instantaneous, the travel, but I knew I could point in the sky where I was. When I got back in my body here, I was like, I was there. And
Wow.
like, and like, I was like this, it was like an animal that was like kind of like a horse, but it had more than four legs. And it was I at the time. I was that thing. And the air was super thick. Like you could feel it. Like it had a texture to the air on this world. And I only was there for like two breaths. But in that moment I was there, I was like, as this creature, I knew my life. I knew where home was. I knew where food was. I knew where water was. I knew where all the things I needed were on this world as this being. And it was so surreal. And it was like, I I couldn't have come up with that.
Yeah,
Couldn't
right.
have imagined that. Like it was so other. It was just such a strange and the feeling of the travel, even though it was instantaneous, I still felt the whole journey. And it was like you can do that. There's a way to do that, and I don't know what it is that unlocks it, but there's a way,
You
and that was
you
so
got to try the
profound.
gateway tapes, bro. You're gonna
Oh
be
yeah,
like,
I will.
what?
Oh, I will for sure, for sure. But that was so cool. And then like I was sitting in my backyard, barefoot, feet in the grass, and I just felt this incredible connection to the entire planet. Every being, every stone, every part of this planet, I could feel it and I could be it. And it was so strange. And it was just the coolest, most profound, and most like heart opening moment of my life. Like I wouldn't have traded that trip for anything. Nothing. You could threaten me with anything and say you do this or you lose that memory. I'm like, take whatever. I don't care. Like I want that memory. That's too good. Now the flip side of that is that I had a horrible week where a lot of bad things happened. Not like necessarily bad to me, but I had a person working for me fall out of a tree, and um, had to end up having like a 15-hour surgery. They weren't sure if he was going to walk again. It was like really heavy. And another one of my guys cut himself with a chainsaw and was had to take him to the hospital, get sewn up. And my partner went out of town for a business trip. I'm at home with my oldest son and my youngest son. They're both there, but they went to bed. And I'm just like turmoil in my head, like just from all the things that had happened that week. And I'm like, I think I need a reset. Maybe if I do a large mushroom trip, it'll reset recalibrate my system so I'm not so, you know, focused on this negative stuff. And boy, was that a mistake. Not only was it the first time I ever tripped by myself, because I always had my partner with me or someone was there. I never done it by myself, but I took 26.1 grams with no MAOI. And my thinking was, well, I mean, I might make it last, and who knows, and I just need the mushrooms, and I'll be good. Well, it didn't work out that way. It was a horrific, horrific trip. Like it was devastating. I was shook, mentally shook for about 3 weeks after that trip. Um, I spent at least 2 hours dry heaving, the most guttural sound you'd ever heard, nothing coming out. Um, During the trip, though, I had some interesting moments where I walked out of my bathroom and I looked in the mirror and I was this old Native American, and I could hear people behind me laughing at me and criticizing, saying I was drunk. And I was like, I'm not drunk, it's medicine, it's the medicine. And these are thoughts I'm having. But I felt this shame and I felt this indignation from these people judging me. Um, and then it just turned into this like just terrifying series of horrific deaths where I was being killed. I was being firing squad, the gas chambers at Auschwitz, these kind of things. I believe that I died every death a human has died that night. And they were all just so horrible. And I'm grieving the loss of my family, the loss of my kids. And I thought, I'm not going to see them what they do in their life, and I'm not going to be there for them anymore. And then it got really bad. Like I had a like full on psychotic break, where I believed that my life was made up, that my kids were made up. It was all something that I invented to deal with this catastrophic position I was in where I was being killed. And when I looked around my room, it all looked like it was made of cardboard. It was like fake. It was just a facade. And I was like, none of it's real. Oh my God. Like, and it was bad, man. It was like, holy crap, how do you come back from that? So I had some PTSD from that for a while, to be honest. And
That's not a very gentle experience at all.
no, no, it was bad, man. It was really, really horrific. And like I said, I was shook. I was really shook for a few weeks after that. I finally gathered myself and like was able to put the pieces back together and, feel like I was back as me again, as a whole person. Um,
So you
and it kind
reassumed
of,
the identity of your current life, in other words, and
yeah,
were able to
yeah.
navigate back into that.
So
There are so many. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, so I was just real slow getting back into any kind of working with mushrooms at all after that for a
Yeah,
while,
I bet.
and
Holy,
I don't think I'll ever take a dose that high again. You know what I mean? But there's questions. I have so many like science. It drives me nuts that I didn't do things scientifically the right way with MAOI and everything, trying to learn what these things are actually doing.
yeah.
So I do have some desire to like pursue that and figure out like what is this action actually taking place with this combination of these two things. And I really do want to like explore that a little more. But honestly, like I've taken trips with, 5 or 6 grams that get you can get it wherever you want to get with the dose. It doesn't have to be a huge dose to get there. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? I believe it's
for
all about
sure.
mindset. It's all about setting yourself up for success. Setting is obviously the biggest thing, but all of it intentionally and doing things with your own plan in place, I think is very important. So,
Everything that you just described brought a few things to mind. I mean, I was raised Mormon, Christian, very black and white thinking. None of this was ever on my radar at all. And through some events in my life that caused some self-perpetuating, self-destructive, looping thought patterns for years, and being on like mood stabilizers, antidepressants for a
mhm.
15-year period, I just went down the drain, wasn't me anymore. And thankfully, I was able to get out of that in about 2014 with the help of some people and helped in so many beautiful ways. So it started opening my mind to other possibilities. Like, what if this is just one way of thinking? What if this is just one lens through which I've seen people and things and myself? And then I realized there are limitless lenses to explore, to see things through, and kind of upgrade your beliefs and your perspectives. You can shift them in different ways. And it was weird because when my mind started to change, I noticed that my reality was unfolding differently. I was meeting different
Mhm.
people, circumstances, like places, things. All these things started to change, and it almost was like the law of attraction, that people talk about. Like I'm attracting different things, and also from inside projecting different things onto the reality. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's fascinating. So past life regression, um, when people have multiple lives, and they've done so many studies over the decades about, especially in India, because that's a thing, they're allowed to think that way. Whereas over here, from a very small age, we're told to be quiet because that makes me uncomfortable. Don't talk about that. And we eventually forget it and goes away, whatever. I don't know how that works. But so many stories about people that have experienced past lives, have the memory of it, and then go with these researchers across town to the home they used to
I've
live
seen it.
in,
Yeah, I've
and
seen that.
have details about this family they shouldn't have at all, right? That's
That one
crazy.
where the guy had like a bread shop or something, and he went there, and the brother was running it now, but his wife was there and all that. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
I haven't even
it's
seen that one.
incredible. It's
There's so
incredible.
many amazing stories that are just unexplainable with modern science or current belief systems.
Mm.
But then there was a guy on the telepathy tapes, and it was the episode about the savants in season two. He'd gotten hit over the head in 2002 outside of a karaoke bar, went home to recover, and was watching the water go down the drain, and it was like a strobe light effect where he was only catching screenshots of this reality because there was something that got broken in his brain and only allowed him to see screenshots instead of a flow, like everybody
All right.
sees. Well, and so within these screenshots, he was noticing shapes and patterns and similarities, and he got really good at pattern recognition because of it. And since then, has come up with this incredible theory. It's called the quantum information holography theory, in which he explains how everything you just described is a possibility on the informational grid, which is
Mm,
limitless.
mm,
There are different worlds, different planes. I mean, the human eye can only see 0.0035%, not even 1% of everything going on.
right.
We are clueless as to how many planes and levels and timelines there may be. We don't know anything.
We have such a limited perspective of everything. Yeah, it's nuts. And that's, I mean, I don't know like what there is out there. I try to stay open minded as much as I possibly can. I don't buy into religious stuff so much, but like I believe all that was made by people, and it's just their interpretation of things, which is fine. I understand why you do it, but like there is a lot out there going on that we don't have any clue about. And so I don't want to jump to any conclusions without my own personal, experience of what is actually going on. But infinity is an interesting concept. I mean, the the idea that time is kind of an illusion for us that we construct because that's how we have to get through this experience. But everything's already happened. It already is there. The whole timeline's already there, and you can jump and see this slice or this slice or this slice, and it's like, who knows? Who knows what's
Yeah,
going on?
it's so
It's very
fascinating.
interesting though. Yeah, it's
But to
very
have your
interesting.
consciousness, your energy that you think you are, to pop out of the human experience and into another realm or another life, have um, memories, of past lives or pre-Earth life agreements with other souls or whatever, like there's these soul connections. Like it's possible in my mind that we agreed to go through everything that we're going through, or maybe there's just a pod where we hop in and we're the observer of it all, and we're witnessing everything. Like you said, the timeline's done. We're just
Hmm.
witnessing it and thinking that's who we are and what we're doing, and maybe free agency was a pre-Earth life thing and this is all unfolding. But it can go so many directions. It's fascinating to think about. But the fact is, plant medicine, remote viewing, binaural beats, all these different things have allowed people to temporarily remove their consciousness, their energy that they truly are, out of the human experience for a little while and have other experiences. And that is a fascinating idea. Like, what else could we learn? What else is out there?
One of my favorite things to do is to go new places and explore and find, go to a different country and just explore the place. And that's what you get to do with these medicines. You explore your own consciousness. You get to actually like feel like an astronaut or one of those old sea captains that goes out and has no idea what's out there, but they're gonna find it. And to me, that's just that sense of adventure is a huge part of it. Like I want to
Okay.
explore. I want to. This is the only time I get to do this as a human being. Let's do everything we can while we're here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like why not? Like what have I got to lose? We're all gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
That's a given. We're already handed that. You got a death sentence from birth. What are you gonna do with this time? How are you gonna make this time the best it can be? And I did a spirit walk with the Peyote Way Church down in Wilcox. Like it's you take the medicine and you're out in a campsite in the desert by yourself for the whole night. And uh it was not like super psychedelic. Like I thought it was going to be like super visual, and there were some visuals, but it wasn't like super overpowering or anything, not even close to mushrooms. But I had these insights during that night that was super profound. I thought, I mean, I the biggest one was I was sitting there and the fire was starting to go out, and I needed to put another log on the fire to keep it going. And I reached down to pick up a log and put it in, and there's this tree right next to me right here that was just like over me for the whole afternoon. And it's nighttime now. I look up at this tree putting this log on the fire. I'm like, oh, that's not cool. Like right in front of you. I'm sorry. Like I'm burning your relative here. But that at that moment I just had this complete like
Wow.
realization that like everything everything on this planet that's alive in any way, what are we actually doing? We're
Wow.
burning. We're burning just like the sun burns. We're burning. The energy we have is coming out and expressing itself until we burn ourselves out. And so, how are you going to burn in this life? What kind of mark are you going to leave from your burning? And it was so, I mean, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. I recommend anybody go that. There are amazing people out there. Um, Annie and
Wow.
Michael, and they run an amazing organization, and they don't make a lot of money, but what they do is, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah,
So
sacred work for sure. That
yeah,
I'm interested. I'll have to
yeah,
get with you after and learn some more about that.
yeah. I'll hook you up.
Yeah.
It's a great experience. I mean, you go there and you have to fast for 24 hours on property. They're off grid. There's no internet. There's no technology. You got nothing. There's no TVs, no radio, nothing. You just read books or watch out the window because it's the middle of the desert, and they have this huge window in the front of the house that has a hummingbird feeder outside of it. I sat there for probably 6 or 7 hours watching these hummingbirds, and I was like fascinated by this social engagement that these hummingbirds have and the way that they operate. That hummingbirds are like aggressive. I didn't realize like how aggressive they are, but like one male will come in and he'll take over this feeder, and he'll just guard it and chase off any other males that come. But the females, they can come drink all they want. That's hilarious. And then until he gets too tired, and then another one comes in and takes over, and one male will protect the feeder for 15, 20 minutes, and then another one will come in and beat him off, and he'll take off, and that one takes over. It was a very cool thing to watch and occupy some time while I was there. But then after that, they take you out to your own private space that's like usually like a half a mile away from the house, and you're out in the middle of nothing. And they have a campfire, everything set up for you, a chair and hammock, and you're on your own for the night. Good luck. Here's the medicine. Drink this, slowly over the whole night.
That sounds interesting. And when you started saying it's off grid, no internet, it's out in nature, I felt a sense of calm and peace and letting go. I was like, oh man, that feels good just hearing
Oh yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. That was
We're
amazing.
so
It was amazing.
consumed by these technological lives and everything going on within them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a guy that said we got like 40 billion bytes of information through these five senses coming at us throughout constantly, every day, all the
All day,
time.
every day. Yeah.
And there's a little device in the brain the size of a pencil eraser called the reticular activating system that will only allow or filter in the things that we choose to focus on and think about. And we miss so much. And
Yeah.
it speaks to the importance of, the realization we need to really intentionally and purposefully focus on what we do want more of in our lives. Um, the whole psychedelic experience for me has left me with a sense of interconnectedness, intertwinement, oneness of all things. I mean, there are
Yeah.
cells and atoms and rocks, and they're alive, you know.
I believe that too. Yeah. Absolutely. And the other thing it teaches you is how important other people are, and how important that social interaction is, because, we the reason we have a mental health problem in this world right now, we're so disconnected from each other. And
Sure.
the all these devices and social media, they call it social media,
Mhm.
but it's really disconnecting you from reality and real people and real connection with people. um it got to where I didn't know. I don't know my neighbors. I don't know the person who checks me out at the grocery store. I don't know these people. I don't feel this connection. I'm just doing a transaction here and going on my way.
Yeah.
And psychedelics is, it's like, after psychedelics you're like, oh, I need to talk to this person and find out who they are, and like, actually talk to them like for real, not like how you doing, and okay, bye, like actually like engage and really feel their energy, so that you get a sense of who they really are. And then that connection matters. And there's so much mental health, you know, problems because people feel alone. And that's the biggest part of addiction. Addiction isn't addiction because people are physically addicted to a substance. I don't believe that. It's not a physical thing. There is some physical aspects to things after a while when you take them, but the majority of people who have an addiction problem, they have an addiction problem because they feel alone, they feel tired of the pain they're in, or the, whatever it is their circumstances, and they're searching for a way out. They're reaching for something, and that thing gives them something to hold on to, and they hold on to it to kill that pain that they're in. If you are happy and you have a good life and you're surrounded by people who love you, and you know that you have these people that support you, you're not going to become addicted to something. It's going to look less appealing than what's over here.
I
And
agree.
they've found that same thing with rats, and in rat studies and other animal studies. They will not become addicted to these things if they have a social network and a living situation that makes them feel comfortable and happy. They will not become addicted to things. If they're in a metal cage with nothing, they'll fucking take cocaine until they die, you know.
Yeah.
But the other rats that are in good settings with toys and other playmates and other rats around them, they just ignore that cocaine button. They don't even care. Like, it's not that good. It's not worth it. So, I mean, that's where we're at. And I think that psychedelics help people heal that pain, and that's why it can be so useful in addiction situations, because it lets them see their life from a different perspective, where they can actually go, "Oh, this is why I'm in pain. Let me address that." And then once that's addressed, they can then move forward and not feel the need to use this substance or whatever it is that's keeping them in a negative situation.
That's
You know?
powerful. That speaks volumes to the importance of community and for utilizing these psychedelics as a tool for reclaiming wholeness. We all talk
Yeah,
about healing work that can go on for the rest of our lives, but after a while, when you use psychedelics, you're able to realize that you're not who you thought you were. And
absolutely.
then who are you without all the ideas and beliefs and thoughts, and it kind of reconnects you and regrounds you to a sacred reality almost in which we are all participating as one huge community. But then, like you're saying, the perception of disassociation or disconnection from others really causes a lot of pain for a lot of us. I heard
Absolutely.
somebody one time, if you don't have a community, make one.
Yeah.
And well, that's what you guys have done, and you've done such a great job. You know, you are so great at socializing, at doing all these things to cultivate a meaningful community of depth in spirituality, and like people get to explore and experience different things within this community, all the different speakers, the things that you do, this uh, conference that's coming up. I mean, that for us has been such an amazing community to watch on social media when we can't be there, or to follow and learn from. And there's just so much good coming from what you guys are doing. And it's just going to keep sending out this huge, massive ripple effect and affecting everybody energetically, spiritually, physically. I mean, people are curious and they want to know more, you know? And here's this community. Here's another lens. Let's check things out through this lens and see what
Yeah.
happens, you know?
Yeah. I mean, everybody who comes through is welcome. And we try to, we try to keep people safe. That's the biggest thing is harm reduction because, you can get in a lot of trouble if you do things the wrong way, not just physically, but like you can get, with the law, with your family, people who don't understand. There's so many people who don't understand. And it's like, well, they think they're doing hard drugs. They're doing,
Mhm.
something bad. It's like, no, that's not what it is. This is like serious healing work we're trying to do. And there's a reason that these substances work for it. And if you learn, if we can educate the public more, maybe we can revolt against the government who's tried to keep these things illegal. I mean, I wrote a paper in college about the war on drugs and, the Controlled Substances Act. And, they really just, they went against every standard of science to put those things in place the way they did. And there's no way as a society of adult human beings, autonomous human beings, that we should allow them to take away our sovereignty that way by enforcing a law that doesn't even live up to the standards that they set for them. They made the rules what these things are supposed to be. These drugs in a Schedule 1 category are supposed to have no medical value, highly addictive, all, highly high case of abuse, all those things. None of those things are true with psychedelics.
Yep.
So what are you doing? Why is that still there? Why can't we be adults and say, no, that's not how it works. You cannot just write something down and say this is the law. We are our own person and we can decide for ourselves what we do. My sovereignty is at my skin. You don't come past that. If I want to put something in my body, that's my choice. And unless it's negatively affecting my life or negatively affecting someone else's life, you got no rights to tell me what I can and can't do. And why can't we have that kind of conversation with our government who's supposed to work for us? You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to me. There was a couple years ago, there was an attorney. She filed a lawsuit against the United States, the FDA, the DEA, HHS, and the state of Arizona. They were all named as plaintiffs in or as being sued by her for her right to freedom of thought. Now, in the Controlled Substances Act, it lists the reasons why these substances are Schedule 1. And the reason in almost every single one was it could negatively affect how someone thinks. Well, guess what, government? Freedom of speech can't be there at all without freedom of thought. So you just broke the constitutional amendment right there. You just broke your own rules by putting that in there. That cannot legally hold. And unfortunately, her case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and they just dismissed it without even a hearing. They just swept it under the rug, and they're allowed to do that, which is crazy. It's crazy that they're allowed to do that. It should have been a public thing. We went to the news channels. We tried to get it. We tried to get the news involved. They didn't want to touch it. We tried to get, it was nuts. I couldn't believe it. I tried so hard to help get that case in front of so many eyes because it's everything. I mean, it's the more freedoms they take away from us, the more they try to limit what we're allowed to do with our own consciousness and our own body. What kind of society, what kind of life do you want for our future, like for our future generations? It's going to be very dystopian if we don't be real careful of what we do right now. And
Yeah.
it's already gotten. I mean, they're already doing crazy things that don't make sense. Hopefully there are some things changing right now that are good. Um, but I honestly, I try to stay optimistic, but it's this medical model of psychedelics is terrible. I mean,
Yep.
it doesn't help. There's it's a baby step, and I don't understand why we need baby steps. Why aren't we just able to say, look, this logically doesn't make sense. Let's just do the right thing and change it.
Mhm.
It's that easy. As a society, we can just decide to change it. But bureaucracy, power, money, the
Mhm.
greed, all of it plays a role. And those are very hard obstacles to overcome. So,
For sure. They've got the funds to make sure that they're protected in any decision they want to make with society. And then they
mhm.
change the norms. They tell the newscasters what to repeat at the same exact time,
It's
sometimes
scary.
statewide,
It's scary sometimes. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting too to remember that sometimes things have to just get so bad that they fall apart and crumble to the ground before something new and better can come forth. And I think that it's possible we're getting there, And we can for sure focus on the beauty in our lives and the things we have to be truly grateful for. And we can have a positive attitude and a mindset that's just solidly grounded and observe all the chaos and remain at peace. And it's a chaotic world, man. And we're all humans within it. And it's quite the experience. But
Man, I read a few books recently that just like, oh, I almost wish I hadn't read them just because they're so bad. Like, this author Annie Jacobson. Have you heard of her?
Mhm.
Yeah. So her books. Let me see if I can turn this thing. It keeps on beeping. All right. Um, so she wrote a book about nuclear war. Um, that was terrifying. She wrote a book about biological war, almost more terrifying than the nuclear war book.
Yeah,
and then, and then she wrote
for
a
sure.
book about Operation Paperclip, which was our government bringing Nazi scientists over for you know furthering our scientific field where because they were afraid the Russians were going to take them if they didn't, and they had all these reasons, but ultimately they let these Nazis off the hook for doing horrendous things to human beings and just gave them accolades and let them be have the American dream after what they did, which is nuts. Um, and then now I'm reading one of her books about Area 51. Now I thought this book was going to be about alien stuff. No, it's not. It's about nuclear testing and these supersonic planes that secret plane projects that came to be the stealth bomber and all these other things. But the crazy thing is like the tests that they've done with nuclear weapons on our planet are unbelievable. Why? Why would they do that? You know what I mean? They they blew up an island and it was gone. The whole island was gone. There was no longer an island there. It was just a hole in the ocean. And it's like, what? I mean, do you know there's creatures that live there? There's other creatures on this planet that live there, not just humans, but everything. They blew them up in the ocean. Well, you're putting radioactive material in the ocean that we all need. You know what I mean? I'm a huge ocean conservation person. I scuba dive. I love scuba diving. I love scuba diving with sharks. Sharks are gonna be wiped out because most humans hate them. Most humans just assume kill a shark and look at it. And these things are like sentient beings. They're when you get in the water with them, they look you in the eye. You can see they're not like these mindless killing machines. I've swam with hundreds of sharks. I've never been bitten. You know what I mean? If you're a good diver and you know how to behave around sharks, they're not going to come for you. They're not interested. They want fish. They don't even care about humans. They're just living their life. But people kill. I've seen sharks with bullet holes in them. People shoot them from boats. Like it's crazy. And I have a shark tattooed on me that I swam with dozens of times, and she disappeared, and probably killed by someone. You know, and it's like when they go, they're the apex predator. They've been here since before there were trees. There were sharks, and that ecosystem without sharks, our whole ocean falls apart. The whole ecosystem of the ocean falls apart.
Have you seen that
So,
woman that put out a documentary on Netflix about this very topic?
hmm.
Beautiful blonde woman,
Ocean
swims with
Ramsey.
sharks. Yeah, yeah. Followed
Yeah,
her,
yeah,
and I was like
yeah, yeah,
educated about these things. I'm hearing it again from you, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's. I
yeah.
get it, man. And
It's
it's
horrible.
you're right. It's a thing.
But aside from that, like this book I'm listening to with the nuclear tests, they blew up a 10 megaton thermonuclear weapon in the upper atmosphere that they thought, oh, it'll. Some scientists said it could ignite the entire atmosphere and burn the entire planet. And other
They
ones were
still
like,
did it.
no, no, it
Okay.
probably won't. And so they went ahead with it. And they did that. They did that. Like our
Why?
government,
Why would they
right?
do
Oh,
that?
we need to know. We need to know what could happen if we get in a war with Russia and blah blah blah. No, we don't. We don't need to know. We need to stop all that. You know what I mean? That's crazy. Like, but that's what we that's those are the people in charge.
I
It's
think
like,
it's all
why?
about money and greed now. They just can't get
Yeah.
enough of it. And it's when's enough enough? There's people literally starving to death in the world as we speak.
Yeah.
And there's plenty to go around. There really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy world. But Peter Crone always taught, that the biggest flex in life, right? The main thing to focus on is cultivating an inner world where you can remain at peace amidst the turmoil and chaos of the world. It is a lot of turmoil and chaos, and with these incredibly dysregulated nervous systems that we are all suffering from, even if we don't realize it, from the overconsumption of information, products, foods, drinks, energies, Wi-Fi.
Hmm.
I mean, there's so much coming at these human bodies. I'm just blown away at how beautifully they're able to adapt and respond regardless. It's
Oh
incredible.
yeah. Oh
What
yeah.
an
Oh yeah.
experience.
100%. Human resilience is amazing. There's no question about that. We have a great ability to endure very difficult situations for long periods of time, and it's it's I guess it's a blessing and a curse because hopefully we could set the world up in a way that we don't have to endure such horrific things all the time.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch things unfold in the next decade for sure. I mean, there's so many new things coming out technologically. There's the threat constantly of biological warfare and
Mm.
nuclear, and can we observe all that and still cultivate inner space where we can remain at peace simultaneously? And that can be challenging. Have you,
Yeah.
have you ever tried ketamine?
Oh yeah. Um, I did it at a ketamine clinic, and it was an amazing experience. I mean,
Mhm.
I was I was kind of a little leery about ketamine. For a while, for several years, I was like, I don't know if I ever want to try ketamine because it's a dissociative, and my only experience with dissociation was that horrific trip I had. And I was like, I'm not looking to
Mhm.
get dissociated from myself. I like myself. I like my life. I don't want to, but I understood why some people liked it, thinking of it the way I did. I thought, well, maybe they are not happy, and that dissociation actually is pleasant for them. They want to be away from their life. And
Yeah.
so to me, it was like that makes sense. I would see why they would want to do that. For me, I don't want to do that. Like I like my life, So I was like, I'm not interested. But then we had a speaker come in that was a ketamine. She had a ketamine clinic that she did, and her talk really inspired me to try it. Like I was like, sounds like it could be a neat thing to try, and it might be helpful, for my life. So we did it. I did it with my partner at the time, and the what I really thought was the best thing about it was that she does it in a very ceremonial way,
Mhm.
where there's drums and there's smoke and there's music and like you feel like you're in the jungle, even though you're laying on a mat with a eye shade on, in a building. It still felt very like you're in a ceremony. And for me, that was a big thing why I chose to do it where I did. But then I had no idea the experience was going to be like it was. Like I wasn't sure what I was open minded going in. I always say, like, if you're going into any kind of experience, the most important thing you can have is curiosity. And if you stay curious, you're gonna have a much better time. Open minded and curious is the best mindset to have.
Agreed.
And that's what I went in with. And man, it was very psychedelic. It was like incredibly psychedelic. The visuals were stunning. Um, the body feeling was kind of strange. Like I felt like at one point, for a pretty good amount of time, I felt like I was a marble statue, and I couldn't. There was no moving. You know what I mean? I was like just kind of frozen in this pose. Um, but I'm laying there, and then all of a sudden, my consciousness is able to go around the room and check in on the other people that are in this experience. There was 9 other people there, and one of them was my partner at the time, and I peered into her experience, and she was all I saw was her face, and it was like kind of glowing, and she was smiling, and she looked very happy, and I was like, well, she looks like she's having a good time, and I moved on. I had brought a friend of mine who had called me because her daughter was going through a hard time at that moment, and she just graduated from college, and she didn't know what she was doing with her life, and she was super depressed. And I said, well, maybe this could help her. You guys should come. We're gonna do this thing. Come with us, and we'll do it together. I've never done it either, so you know. And so she did, and I checked in on my friend first, and she was kind of chaos. She was kind of like talking, like she was talking really fast and saying things that didn't really make sense, and I was like, okay, to each their own. She's having some kind of experience.
Hmm.
And then I went to her daughter, and her daughter was in the fetal position, crying, like bawling, and I said, hey, everything's gonna be okay, and she looked up at me, and she kind of stopped crying a little bit, and and in those spaces, it's a little like the time and uh, the interaction is a little distorted, right? So
Hmm.
I don't know
Very.
what else we did at that moment, but like I could tell, I kind of gave her a little bit of hope. That's what I felt before I moved on and went to other people in the space that I didn't know, but I could still see them and see what they were doing in their trip.
And
It was the
this is
strangest thing.
not physically, this was your consciousness
This
going
is
into theirs.
I'm laying on a thing with a mask.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't move at all, right? But
Wow.
but I had this experience, and it was really surreal, and it was like, wow, that's crazy, and I saw other things and planets, and I saw a lot of sacred geometry type of stuff. But the whole room, everybody kind of woke up around the same time, came out of this experience around the same time, and the only one who didn't was my friend's daughter, and she's still like completely out, like completely in there, in that space still. And we're trying to, like, hey, are you? And she's just not having it. She's still under. And so we all just like went around, we all shared, we all did, the circle and talked about our experience, a little bit of integration work. And during all of that, she's still completely in the medicine. And so when everybody was kind of ready to go, we are done. You know what I mean? Like, it's been 3 hours, I think, since we started, and this stuff only lasts like 45 minutes to an hour. So we get her up, we're like, hey, it's time to go. We gotta, and we helped her out to the car. Her mom had to help her upstairs to bed when they got home, and she slept through the whole night, and so the next day I called my friend. I said, hey, how's she doing? Is it, she ever get up last night? And she's like, no, she slept the whole night, but then she got up this morning, had breakfast, she seemed fine. Um, she said she wanted me to tell you thank you for telling her it was going to be okay. I said, what? I didn't tell her that. What are you talking about? She's like, yeah, she said that you said it was going to be okay. And she said that helped. I was in the trip. That didn't happen. That didn't happen in real life. I was like, what's going on here? This is some psychic craziness. Like, wow. But yeah, that
Telepathy
was pretty
again.
profound right there. That
That is.
her saying that was like, what the
What a
fuck?
beautiful experience.
Yeah, yeah. It
Did you
gave me chills, dude.
notice throughout your experience, did you notice your eyes going left to right, left to right, left to right?
Hmm. Yeah, a little bit, I think. It didn't stand out, but I do recall that happening.
That
It
was
wasn't like MDMA, like with the it wasn't like the MDMA thing, but it was, yeah, it was kind of like 'cause you're in like a dream state almost. Yeah.
interesting. You know, ketamine's legal substance. They use it in surgeries,
Yeah.
and there are many ketamine clinics popping up everywhere. And I've found that to be one of the most gentle, calming, soothing nervous system resets I've ever experienced. Only done it once. And I was like, okay, well, I don't think I want to do that a couple times a week or even a couple times a month. I need to really process what I just experienced because it was
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't mind
what,
doing it again. I
oh,
haven't
for
done it again
sure.
since that either, but yeah, I wouldn't mind. It's a very that was a very pleasant experience for me. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know about going in a K-hole. I don't know what that is. I don't, but people talk about it. You know what I mean? Like
Huh,
they take a
never heard
lot
of
and they
it.
end up like catatonic or whatever for a period of time. Um, but yeah, I would definitely give ketamine another go at some point. Not no hesitation. It's
Yeah.
a really cool substance.
So you're a pretty rock and roll kind of guy. I noticed that you've been on or mentioned at least on 98 KUPD.
Yeah. Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I remember you sent me a recording and they were talking about you. What was that about?
Well, I've known John for a number of years. He's the morning DJ of Holmberg's Morning Sickness, and um, I met him. It's probably been 15, maybe more than 15 years ago. But he does a band thing too, and we ended up doing shows together with a Perfect Tool and his band, and had a lot of fun over the years. But
Huh, cool.
I've been on the show a couple of times. They talk about me a lot because I text him. I because I listen most mornings somewhere up early, and so when they talk about something that I know about, I'm like, hey, what about this? And then he'll like, oh yeah, Gary says blah blah blah, and so it's kind of funny, and he helped me with the when we were doing that fundraiser thing with the trip to Peru. He mentioned it a few times on the air, which was cool. Um, I try not to cross the bounds, because they make money with advertising, and radio is a dying thing right now. So it's like
Yeah.
every dollar counts in their business, and I totally get that. And I'm trying not to step on any toes or make him look bad or that kind of thing. But yeah, I like his show. I like his humor. I think he's a funny guy. I think he's a smart guy. Um, he gets a little misogynistic sometimes, but he does it on purpose just to get people going. And I see what he's doing. It's not like, like comedy is a big. I did stand up for a little while and had a little like stand up comedy group that we were working to bring new comics up in the scene and teach them how to do it. And so I've always appreciated humor, and I think you need it. I think that it really brings levity to some situations when otherwise it would be just dismal. So
I agree for sure. I swear, I tell my wife all the time, if if you could just go on tour, we would be millionaires because we've been together almost 12 years now, and every day she has me rolling with new
yeah,
material that just
yeah,
pops in her and comes out of her mouth. And I'm like, where do you get this from? I mean, she's just naturally so funny, and I just love her
yeah.
humor.
Some
It's a
people are.
gift to
I'm a
be
much
around
better
those
teacher
people.
than I am a stand-up. When I do stand-up, it's mostly just telling stories and funny stories and whatnot. But like, there's some people you meet and you're just like, dude, you're funny. Like, there's no
Yeah,
question. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So yeah, they're a treasure.
awesome.
Those people. Yeah.
Wow. Well, hey, really want to acknowledge you for the work you've done in your own life, on you, which then ripples out and touches and affects absolutely everybody around you. Thank you so much for the community work that you've been doing all this time. Uh, the Arizona Psychedelic Society Conference, #2 coming up, and I highly recommend people go and Get some tickets, attend. You will not be disappointed. It was such a phenomenal experience for us last year, and we're huge fans of the community. Um,
Thank you.
and nothing but support and love coming from here for you guys, man. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, 2026 Arizona Psychedelic Conference. You should be able to find it there if you look it up online. Absolutely.
Is
Thank you.
there Are there any parting words of wisdom that you would like to leave? And by the way, a perfect tool. That's a great name for a band, but also for psychedelics.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, if I could tell people anything, it would be educate yourself and learn. I don't want to tell anybody what they should do, but learn about psychedelics from a neutral perspective and make your own mind up, and always be safe. The biggest thing for people is to do these things with intention and know what you're doing, because so many people look, drugs aren't bad. No drug is bad. Substances don't kill people. Not knowing what you're doing kills people. And so many people die of overdose every day because they're trying to get high, they're trying to run away from their pain, they're addicted to something because they're in pain, and they take a substance not knowing what it is, mostly because it's illegal. If it wasn't illegal, it would be labeled. It would know what the dose is they should take and what that dose is going to do to them. They end up taking something that's not even what they think it is because of the laws. That's what kills people. Don't let them fool you. Don't let people pull the wool over your eyes and tell you people are addicted to drugs and drugs are killing people. No, what's killing people is our stupid laws and not informing the public and people not educating themselves. So educate yourself about these things. They're not dangerous unless you make them dangerous because you don't know what it is. That's it. Test your substances.
Love that. Hey, thank you so much for your time and energy and for showing up to create this episode. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
Hey guys, Pete Jones here with goodinthehead.com. Thanks for listening to these episodes, and I hope that you subscribe, like, and share. If you'd like to go to the website, goodinthehead.com, we've got merch, books, all kinds of things for sale there, and a ton of information on things that can help anybody up level and upgrade their belief systems, perspectives, and habits. This is the shirt that we have on there for sale. One of them. It's got the chakras down the back. And we've also got hats, sweatshirts, and all kinds of things to explore. Wish you well on your life journey and keep kicking ass.